From LALATE News headquarters in Santa Monica, this is Mornings LALATE.
It's a big morning of Mornings LALATE with incredible great news about your fourth stimulus check update of 2021. In this recording, a deal is happening, and that deal could be revealed in the next 24 hours. All the latest breaking news on Mornings. Then we cut to the recon. A new poll says that Americans don't know what's in the recon. What went wrong? I'll have the latest details this morning. Then we turn to a $1.7 to $2 trillion deal. This is huge, and I have the latest breaking details of where the price is right as we go into a big morning broadcast. Meantime, programs in, programs out. What is going on? I have the latest details of what is in and what got removed yesterday and what could get removed today. Then, student loan debt. More debt could be forgiven by the weekend. And then, breaking on Mornings, a new update about fifth stimulus. The first update we've had about fifth stimulus in several weeks. It's happening right today. And then we look back at the first 1.5 years of this channel and how we got here and what we know going forward. 140 million views and 1.5 years this weekend. I have the latest details. As the toast is toasting, the butter is buttering, and the coffee is brewing. We got a big Mornings broadcast, and the deliciousness starts right here. I'm excited you're here, and we're going to go over all these incredible details starting on this big Mornings broadcast. We have this and more. We'll also have a little bit about this stimulus because the toast is toasting, the butter is buttering, and the coffee is brewing. And this is the breaking news of Mornings LALATE. Good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a beautiful day and hope the weather is good where you are. A deal is happening. A deal will be revealed potentially as early as tomorrow. What is in the recon? What is out? I'll have the latest details in this morning's broadcast. The deal follows after a new poll says that Americans don't even know a recon exists. 90% of Americans don't even know any of this even exists. What went wrong with the Democrats? Meantime, a $1.7 to $2 trillion deal is where we're going to land. This is great news for you. I'll explain to you why. Programs in, programs out. Which ones went in and which ones went out. The situation is very fluid, and I'll have the latest details live from Santa Monica on this morning's broadcast. Then we'll be turning to the first fifth stimulus update of several weeks. It came minutes ago. It's huge. And then we look forward to the incredible 1.5 year anniversary of this channel. What we have learned across the board during that time and what we'll learn going forward as this channel approaches as this pros channel. There we go. You know, somewhere there. Oh, it comes and leaves. There you go. And this channel approaches 1.5 years this weekend. 140 million views. And so long as that graphic works, we're good. And this is LALATE. So subscribe. 400,000 subscribers to YouTube record. I want you part of this incredible family. Hit that subscriber button right now. Like this video and consider becoming a member. The situation is very fluid, and the videos are changing by the hour, so you cannot miss anything. But let's cut right to the details. As we start a big morning's broadcast, we have a recon that was originally $3.5 trillion, will be smaller, and will pay the viewers of this channel upwards of about $15,000. Yes, if you're a single individual, if you are a married couple, if you have children, if you're in a red state or blue state, this recon will pay you about $15,000. As soon as it becomes long, I'll show you how to get all these incredible sums of money. This is money for single people, money for people with children, without children, workers, SSI, SSDI, all across the board, and it's incredible recon. It has 3 clusters of checks passed, but as we go into this morning's broadcast, some of the items in those clusters been removed. Some of the items been modified. Some of the provisions removed and then added right back in. So get that pen and paper ready. Get ready for what we called on Evenings LA last night, information overload. It's far from over, and the information is kicking in right now as we go to the first cluster, checks pass. Hazard pay and $4,000 of elder care, staying in there. Hazard pay, they brought in the eligibility for the earned income tax credit, increasing the amount of money so that those essential workers get this money. $4,000 of elder care, incredible, great news. $4,000 of young children's care in there as well. College grants to the university and to the student. And then the Pell's grant made tax-free. But the CTC, the child tax credit, getting changed. The CTC, the child tax credit for children, was supposed to run for 18 years, which would be upwards of $51,000. Not happening. Then by midday yesterday, it looked like it was going to be 5 years, about $10,000. Not happening. So where are we right now? It looks like the CTC is at 1 year, which will be $300 of every month, every month that the family is low income, about $3,000 total. Totally different than $51,000. Now at $3,000. Then they got grants in there to repair the home, totally free. If you live in a low-income community, they're staying in there. These are free money to repair the home. Then they got money in there for new bikes, cars, and trucks, all U.S., all electric manufactured. How much money? 15% for the purchase price of a new electric bike, totally free. $7,500 for the purchase price of a new electric car, U.S. auto manufactured, and for personal use. And a little bit more if it's for business use. That is the first cluster checks. And now you see how the situation is even fluid in that first cluster. Let's go to the first add-on, which comes from Maxine Waters, $25,000 for the purchase price of your first home. This is huge. This is pure cash. During the escrow, they would likely give the money right to the seller in your name for the purchase price of your very first home. Still in there, still being proposed to be added in there. Remember, this is an add-on. We don't know if it's going in there, but there's been a lot of talk in the last few hours about one of the provisions still already in the clusters, which is money for housing. This is an extension of rent aid. Maxine Waters put it in there. It's about $200 billion. It's still in there at the moment, at the time of this broadcast this morning, but Maxine Waters really feels there's a lot of heat to take it out. That is in there. Now let's turn to the second cluster checks. These are passed. These are in there, and you're going to learn which ones are coming out and which ones are under fire. Home repairs and paid family leave. This is cluster number 2. These are items that are passed to the subcommittee of the House 2 weeks ago, but which ones are coming out as of this morning? Paid family leave, medical leave. A little bit about this a second. This is $1,700 a week if you make $80,000 or more per year. $800 a week if you make $35,000 a year. $400 a week if you make $15,000 a year. Child care tax credits, household tax credits, Medicare, dental and vision, and also pre-kindergarten totally free, tuition-free community college, and money to weatherize your house. Okay, so which of those are in there, which ones are going out, and which ones are all over the place as of mornings? First, weatherize your home. Staying in there. Good. You got to weatherize the legislation as well. I always say, watch to make sure there's no moderate Democrats on the roof. Always weatherize the House to keep the moderate Democrats out, and wherever possible, keep them out of the Senate. There we go. So which provisions going in, which one provisions going out, and which one's under jeopardy? Paid family and medical leave under jeopardy. This was what Nancy Pelosi said yesterday when asked whether it's in jeopardy to take out. She said, I have changed more diapers in this room than anyone else. That was Nancy Pelosi's comment. And during the live chat last night on Evenings LA, I made a joke. I said, diaper stimulus is still in there. People really were just excited. There's money for diapers in the stimulus package? No, it was a joke. It was because Nancy said she has money for fixing diapers. No, it was a joke. But at the moment, paid family leave, medical leave is currently staying in there. Community college caused a lot of real anxiety attacks yesterday. Why? Jala Paul told us yesterday, it's coming out. We have the quote from her. She said it's coming out. Nancy may have been watching me because by Evenings LA, Nancy came on air and said, no, who said community college is going out? I did in Jala Paul. That's who said it. I said it because Jala Paul said it. So community college out, back in. Okay, so there we go. That's the second cluster of checks and the latest update on those. You follow along? It's sort of like fantasy football, but for stimulus. You know, it's who's sidelined this week of the NFL. All right, let's turn to the next add-on, which comes from Bob Casey. The wonderful legislator from Pennsylvania, the 61-year-old Democrat, proposes to add $250 million for home health care. Do we know any updates about this as an add-on? Not in there as an add-on. We don't know them yet. Bob Casey's proposing big money so you would have free home health care. Why? Because you can't afford it. You're having your son and daughter stay home from work and not make a living. He's proposing to give money to the state and cities so that they can give it to you with a licensed professional totally free. That allows your son and daughter to go back in the workforce, alleviate workforce labor shortages, and allows your son and daughter to make a living. Don't know the update about that just yet, but we do have some updates about the third cluster checks, and I have some of them right now. One is absolutely out and staying out. One is in jeopardy. Cluster number 3, here we go. Free school meals for all, checks. Cheaper prescription medication, checks. Checks for farmers, checks for elections, checks for clean energy, checks for workers, independent contractors, checks for free internet, and checks for seniors, dental, vision, and hearing care, and lowering the eligibility age of Medicare. All right, here are the updates on the status of those provisions. First, Bob Casey, the Democrat from Pennsylvania, the 61-year-old Democrat. In a world exclusive, I can report that Bob Casey is looking to drop the eligibility age of Medicare in this third cluster from 65 to 60. Great news. That's still in there at the moment. Number 2, the dental, the vision, and the hearing care. Bernie Sanders feels the heat. He's worried it's coming out. I have a little bit about this coming up in a second. There's talk about vouchers. There's talk about limiting the number of years on it. There's talk about removing it altogether. Bernie Sanders is fuming angry about it. I have more detail about this coming up in a second. Stay with me. Then the prescription medication. The language will begin modified for Kristen Sinema, but it is currently still staying in there. And then the clean energy, which is not all of climate. It's just one provision about climate. It was removed last week, as I detailed in a world exclusive on this channel. It's staying out, and it really is what made the ball roll for Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin has literally been nirvana. He has been paradise incarnated. He has been absolutely wonderful since Monday, and it really was because this provision was taken out. It was a game starter, a no starter for Joe Manchin. It was a deal breaker. He said, "Take it out, or I'm never doing this recon." The president took it out last week. It's staying out. It's confirmed stayed out as of now. Which brings us to the third add-on, which you know what that is, that MSC IRS stimulus check. That third add-on tells us 3 things about the situation. First, how they do things. Second, where they do things. And third, what we need to do to advocate. So, the number 1 legislator on the Senate, which is Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, his office tells viewers 3 times he's added it in. He told Debbie Applegate last week, he told Donnie's wife the week before that, and he told one viewer going into last week, and he's added it in, but he's on the Senate side. He would add it on the Senate side. What about the House side? One viewer was told by Omar's office 2 days ago that her, AOC, and Pelosi will be added in on the House side after a House bill, but before a House vote. Let's go over the details of this, the Maxine Waters, the Bob Casey, those add-ons, how they do add-ons. What's important to understand is that they're trying to get to a deal on the entire recon package, not bill, package, by Friday. That would mean that they would go write the legislation between this Friday and next Friday, get it ready for a House vote by next Friday. Then, these legislators believe that maybe they would add it after the bill is written, but before the House vote, which is basically you're looking at the House bill, you say, no, I want to make changes. Let's make changes. They add it in there. This is after the bill is introduced on the House floor, but before a House vote. Of course, the big one is the 2-day vote-a-rama on the Senate. That goes last. The senators receive whatever the House passes, and they look at it and say, no, you left something out. We're taking care of it. We're added in there. If you've been with this channel for over a year, you know how senators historically add an enormous amount of legislation on the Senate side that the House does not take care of it. Remember when I've been talking about student loan debts? A student loan debt that is forgiven is a taxable event, meaning if you have $30,000 of debt forgiven, you have to pay taxes on $30,000, which is about $15,000 of taxes out of your hand. That would have been the situation had not Chuck Schumer and Liz Warren on the Senate side in January this year added a provision during the vote-a-rama that the forgiveness of the forgiveness of student loan debt is not a taxable event. That was an example of something they added on the vote-a-rama side. So we have Chuck Schumer representing he's going to add it on the vote-a-rama side. We have Liz Warren, Bernie Sanders, Chris Coons, and Bob Casey. That's why advocacy is the third part of this prong. Advocacy is revealed to us as the incredible message from the number 1 senator in this recon and his chief of staff. He's saying to advocate down to the finish line. You absolutely have to advocate. You can't stop before there's a House bill. You can't stop after there's a House bill, and you can't stop before there's a Senate vote. You have to advocate every single step of the road. We now have the chief of staff reports. In total, between congressional and senatorial offices, more advocacy contacts from LA Purple Power than the signatures of the American petition. Over 3 million. Everyone's amazed by the outpouring, touching stories from LA viewers. They now have a better understanding of what Americans are doing to get through this pandemic. They have heartbreaking stories from LA And they have the voice of the people across the nation in you, LA, who has become too loud to be ignored. Incredibly kind. Let's read the last sentence together on air. And that last sentence is about you and me. Please continue your encouragement for the continued advocacy as the professional voice of the people you have become, LALATE, and continue until this becomes law. That is very, very kind. And it's also a message to us. We need to advocate. Need to advocate before we have a House bill, after we have a House bill, after we have a House vote, before we have a Senate vote-a-rama, and while we're having a Senate vote-a-rama. Because every step of the way, you have to advocate. In the second half of this video, we have a lot coming up, and boy, is it a jam-packed video. Get that pen, paper ready, and get ready for a information overload. We're going to be doing the big rundown as to the items that are in the recon and the items that are coming out. I'll be going over which items have been removed and which ones were not removed. With a $1.7 to $2 trillion price tag, we got to go over which items and how they're getting changed. We'll be going over student loan debt forgiveness. More debt could be forgiven by the weekend. And the first update about this stimulus in several weeks. It's brand new on this morning's broadcast. We'll be looking also at the 1.5 year anniversary of this channel. We got a lot coming up in the second half of this video. Stay with me. I'll be back with you in 60 seconds. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE Daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on Mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE. And the excitement continues live from Santa Monica as a deal's happening in the next 24 hours potentially for the recon. This is as nearly 90% of Americans have no idea that a recon even exists. That recon is going to be dropped down to 1.7 to 2 trillion with Manchin on board and being very helpful suddenly in the last 4 days. Why did everything change? I'll explain why. Programs in, programs out. Which ones removed and which ones went back in overnight. It's just sort of like, Parcheesi. Or Twister. Student loan debt, more debt could be forgiven across the board. Whose debts could be forgiven by the weekend? And then COLA gets its first update. Guess what? This stimulus is heating up with a new series of quotes out today. I love them. You're going to love them as too. Our first update about this stimulus in several weeks. Then we look back at the LALATE anniversary, 140 million viewers, a look back and what has happened over this last year and a half and what it tells about us going forward. But first, we're going to start with that deal that's happening, and it could happen starting tomorrow. And with that, subscribe. 400,000 subscribers is a YouTube record. I want you part of this incredible family. The news cycle's changing by the hour, on the hour. Get that pen, paper ready. We're going to go down the rundown of whether your favorite fantasy stimulus is in or has been traded to another team. Like the video, 2,000-3,000 likes, or consider becoming a member. We got a lot coming up today. Noontime at LA at 11 a.m. totally live. 10 a.m. will be Crypto's live on air. I'm back with Crypto. And then we got shows at 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock with Afternoons LA, totally new show today, and Evenings LA at 5. And with that, let's turn to the details of what's happened with the president and the negotiations in just the last few hours. Why has the situation changed so quickly, and how has it changed so quickly? A deal is likely to be reached with this recon by the end of this week, which could be tomorrow or this weekend. Why has the situation changed so quickly? How has it changed so quickly? And what's going on? Let me tell you the details. First, Jalapal doesn't want to give us a deadline or a date, but she says it will get done. She says we're going to get the recon done. We're going to get it done, and it's a messy process, negotiation. Democracy is not easy. Negotiation's not easy. There are big differences. But this comes after Jalapal met with Joe Manchin on Monday and said it was a great time to spend with him, her first time with him since the recon started. We have to bridge them and come together because at the end of the day, we have to deliver both of these bills, the infrastructure and the recon, the Build Back Better Act. Pelosi and Schumer have said, get ready to get this done as an agreement by the end of this week and a vote in the House by the end of next week. Chris Coons says we are getting very close. The gaps are closing. The vibe of our caucus is totally different. Folks are more clear-eyed. We got to get this done because December is really a mess. And John Tester says, I think that a lot has happened the last few days. We're getting to the point where things are moving very quickly. What's really changed here? A series of things. Number one, it was 2 weeks ago where there was a big problem. The big problem was that the moderate Democrats were not telling Americans what they were, at least the Democrats, what they wanted, not telling them what they wanted. And somewhere along the way, someone got people talking. And I think it was really two issues. One, clean energy. The clean energy provision of the cluster, one of the items in there, is a provision that really is a non-starter, a deal breaker for Joe Manchin. The president took it out, I told viewers exclusively last week, took it out. And at that point, Joe Manchin said, thank you. Now I can start talking about this recon. Then I think the meeting with Jalapal and Joe Manchin really changed everything. They came to an understanding, you need to come down. We are coming down, Joe. We're coming down into the twos, low ones. You need to tell us what you don't like. We'll take it out. And as people started taking things out that Joe Manchin didn't like, as the progressives started coming down into the $2 trillion range, things started working. Joe Manchin has literally been nirvana, paradise since Monday. It's absolutely a change of situation. Kristen Sinema, not so much. She's causing a lot of problems by not telling people what she doesn't like about corporate taxes and personal taxes. That's coming up in a second from this video. So you see why bringing this recon down was a big issue. One of the big issues is that no one knows the recon exists, except you and me. There's a reason why this channel exists. A new CBS poll released earlier this week reveals that 90% of Americans, Republican and Democrats, 90%, don't know the recon even exists. Of the 10% of Americans, both Republicans and Democrats, who know the recon exists, they can't tell you what's in there. That's why there's always someone in the live chat that says, I haven't heard this. I haven't heard this on broadcast media. I haven't heard this on print media. I haven't heard this anywhere. Because no one knows it exists. And the problem has been a Democrat problem. Majority Whip Dick Durbin says that there is a big problem. I don't doubt it. When asked about the CBS poll, he says, I think it's our fault, the Democrats. We undersold the recon. We underperformed the recon for too long. Now we have a chance to get it to the right way. And that right way is bringing it to a price point. The price is right. Where will it land? 1.5 to 2 trillion. It was a $3.5 trillion recon. It will be at 1.7 to 2 trillion. Let me explain to you the three numbers, why it's all great for you, and then let me tell you the reaction. The recon is currently 3.5 trillion. Exclusively, I've been reporting on this channel that the programs at 3.5 trillion are 10-year programs. You're only hearing this on this channel. 10-year programs, 3.5. So I said for 2.5 weeks, I said, cut the program durations in half. 5-year programs, 3.5 divided by 2, 1.7. 1.7 5-year programs. Everyone can deal with that. We need big checks this year, next year, the year after that. That's 3 years. 5 years of checks, that's great. 1.7 is perfect for us. That's 5-year programs. So what are the three numbers being floated around? The president told his Democratic caucus yesterday and the day before, 2 trillion. Do 2 trillion. 2 trillion is great for us, folks. That's about 6 to 7 year programs. The moderate Democrats said 1.7. 1.7 is fine for us, folks. That's about 5-year programs. 1.9 is another number that really I think it's going to land at. That's where the moderate Democrats said they'll go to before they start feeling motion sickness. They'll start feeling, dizzy. 1.9 they'll go to. 1.9 we're looking at 5.5, 6 year, 6.5 year programs. Great. One of the things I did make clear yesterday in yesterday's videos is that the way they're modifying the recon in these negotiations in the last 24 hours is they're changing durations of times, but it's not as though every program has the same duration. The CTC, the child tax credit, going to 1 year. Other programs going to 7 years. So it's not like everyone's going to 5 years for every program. The reaction has been great. Representative Debbie Dingle, Democrat, Michigan, says Biden has been decisive. He's showing leadership. It's going to get done this time. Patty Murray, Democrat, Washington, says there's a real consensus. We're going to get this done. We all seen the timeline. And then Steny Hoyer says we're working hard to get these legislations done because we have significant progress. We're heading towards that finish line. December is a problematic month. You don't want to leave legislation to December. It's a hot mess of a month. That's why they want to get it done right now. Programs in, programs out. Okay, you're ready to get that pen and paper and ready, and you're ready for that information overload. Here we go. You may have felt this last night. You're going to feel it again right now. Provisions in, provisions out. Climate and college were removed by afternoons yesterday. By evenings, they were back in. What went wrong? What went on? Let me tell you what's going on. First, Jayalapal said, there will be something for higher education, but it won't be for free community college, meaning it's out. That was what Jayalapal said. I made the recording on Afternoons LA. Nancy tuned in and said, hi, LA. It's still in community college. Really, Nancy? Okay. So by Evenings LA, I was back on air saying, Nancy now says community college is back in. Then climate. We thought most of climate was out. Then it was back in. What is definitely 100% out? Clean energy, which was the Joe Manchin provision, which brought him to the table. That is out and staying out. So let's get ready with all the rundown. First, let's go over the timeline and the big cuts. Timeline. Steny Hoyer says, I think members are in a position where they can get something done, and they understand they got to get everybody in the tent because then we have close margins. So I think they can accommodate it. Nancy Pelosi says it's very possible they'll reach an agreement this week, which means the vote in the House will be next week. We continue to be on schedule, says Nancy Pelosi. We have a goal. We have milestones. We've met every milestone along the way in our timetable, and we need to reach our goal. And here comes the quote from Nancy. When asked whether paid leave and family leave is coming out, Nancy Pelosi said, I've changed more diapers than anyone in this room. And last night on Evenings LA, I made the joke. So diaper stimulus is staying in there. And people took it as a serious remark, meaning there's stimulus checks for diapers. No, it was a joke. It was a joke. Diaper stimulus is still in there. No, that's referring to paid and family leave. Sorry, I confused you with that one. Big cuts. Senator Ben Cardin, Democrat, Maryland, says that there will be big cuts. I anticipate big cuts. I think the major parts will remain in, but maybe not as strong. Chuck Schumer says we need to reach our sweet spot. Everyone's going to have to make a compromise. We're going to have to find a legislative sweet spot so we can all get behind it. We're going to reach that agreement. We'll get close to it. We think we're going to finalize a deal by the end of this week, and that we need to keep on moving. And Pelosi said, when asked, is community college and coming out and paid leave? She said, news to me. This is late yesterday by Evenings LA. That's not a decision, so it's back in. All right, here come our cuts and our non-cuts. Super cuts, short cuts, fashionable cuts. Here we go. Child care tax credit, staying in. 18 years, not going to happen. $51,000 of 18 years of checks, not happening. 10 years of $15,000 of checks, not happening. Where's it right now? It's at 1 year, which would be about $3,000 one time. 12 checks of it. Obama subsidies and Medicare expansion, still in there. Here comes the big question mark. Dental and vision and hearing checks, which is Medicare expansion, really under fire. Still in there, but under fire. Bernie Sanders is fuming mad. This is his baby. He wants this to stay in there, and it is really under fire. The president has proposed vouchers. Bernie says no. The president has proposed 3 years. Bernie has said no. So this one is a one that Bernie wants lifetime changes of it. He doesn't want it as a 2-month program. He wants it as a lifetime change. Paid family leave and climate, very fluid. Paid family leave staying in there at the moment. Climate, some of the provisions in, but the clean energy staying out and will not definitely come back in. That was the exclusive on this channel last week. The provision at issue is the Clean Electricity Performance Program, which we all know. No, we don't. It's just a very unique program that Joe Manchin said, take it out. Otherwise, I'm never doing your recon. They took it out, and that's why it has been wonderful. State and local tax deduction, the push to lift the cap on state and local tax deduction, SALT, not going in at the moment. And then tuition-free community college. The possibilities at the moment, not lifetime. It is either out or it's going to be 2 years or less. So it's not going to be like you could be in tuition, you could be in community college for 5 years. So at the moment, somewhere between out or 2 years free. Sinema and her secrets. Sinema and her secrets are not sitting well with fellow Democrats, especially Democrat from Texas, Veronica Escobar, who is unhappy with Senator Sinema's secrets. What's at issue? Sinema will not tell the Democrats what she doesn't like about corporate taxes and rich people's taxes, which is being used to pay for the recon. There's a guessing game with Senator Sinema, says Escobar. Yes, we're all supposed to be on the same team, which means transparency, communicating, telling people what you don't like, collaboration. And without it, it makes it significantly more challenging. I don't know where the red lines are for one U.S. senator who has an amazing amount of power. Basically what Escobar is saying, Sinema won't tell people what she doesn't like. She keeps on running from the story. And there you go. What's at issue is really that you have a lot of programs coming in, coming out, fluid, not fluid. It's important to understand that they're trying to get this to an agreement, so that agreement could be written up as a House bill. So that House bill could be called for a vote, not this Friday, but the Friday thereafter. And that House bill could still get changed before the vote on the House bill, where they add things in there, and then go over the Senate, where that Senate could still add things in, because remember, senators have the final say. And if you've been on this channel for over a year, you see how senators really make dramatic changes during that vote-a-rama. Student loan debt forgiveness. More debt could be forgiven by the weekend. Which ones are these? These are by executive order, not part of the recon at all. The president forgave 1, 2, 3 rounds of student loan debts, but there could be a third one coming on as well. The president forgave student loan debts initially for people who became disabled after graduation. Then the president has now forgiven student loan debts for people who went into the nonprofit sector for 10 years after graduation. Great news. But the biggest one was the president forgave student loan debts in the last few days for people who went into the into the public sector for 10 years after graduation. The public sector. This is the city, the county, the state, the federal government. You've worked in there, those divisions for 10 years. Your debts are forgiven. This is huge because a lot of people don't make a lot of money in those jobs and not enough money to pay off their student loan debts. You work as a public school teacher. You work for the library. You work for sanitation or the Department of Public Building and Safety. You don't make a lot of enough money, and certainly not enough money to pay off those student loan debts. Now they're forgiven. One viewer had a great question in one of the shows last night. I think it was Evenings LALATE. She said, where do I get the student loan debts forgiven? At the state? No, it's not via your employer. This is a order by the President of the United States, so it's federal law. You want to look to whitehouse.gov to see if there's an executive order, but ultimately reach out to the U.S. Department of Labor. They will help you for this, or also the U.S. Department of Education. They will help you on this especially. The proof in the pudding is that you've been working in that workforce for at least 10 years. So get those pay stubs ready to prove up you've been in that job for 10 years. It's not something the employer has anything to do with. It's you and that lender and the federal government. Fifth stimulus. I'm very excited. We have a fifth stimulus update. Wow. This is big. And it's not the COLA update. It's not the COLA raise. It's something brand new on Mornings LA. So first, your COLA benefits are going up 5 to 6% next year if you're on SSI, SSDI, Social Security, Railroad benefits. But fifth stimulus is coming up right behind it. And fifth stimulus will give you 2 other raises thereafter. First, let's go over the mathematics, and then we'll go over the breaking news. The mathematics is fifth stimulus is going to raise everyone's benefits up again. If you're on SSI, SSDI, Social Security, Railroad benefits, and veterans benefits. Then it's going to apply a new benchmark. The new benchmark is inflation. When? Next year, December. Inflation is going to be 1 to 3%. It's not going to be 0. It's important to understand one thing I did not make clear earlier in this week is that with this raise up under COLA, it's law. Once you step up, you never step down. So you're getting a check currently this month. Whatever that check is, kiss it goodbye, because you're never going to see that lower number again. Once you're raised up, you're never going to go back down to the low number of 2020 or previous years. How's it going to work? First, they're going to raise your benefits up under COLA, definitely next year. Then, if this stimulus becomes law, they'll step you up one more time. And then they'll apply a new benchmark of inflation next year in December that replaces COLA. And that will step you up a third time. They're removing the asset cap dating back to a 1980s law that says you can't have more than $3,000 in hand. It's going to go away. Now you'll be able to have some muddled. Did you call this muddled? Some beautiful blue in your hand, and also some stimulus checks. They're going to remove the asset cap, the income cap, dating back to a 1960s law that says you can't work and stay on benefits. And they're going to remove the marriage penalty, and love is going to win, and you'll be able to marry your longtime love interest. Like Rob and Sandy will be able to get married and no longer fear loss of benefits. That's fifth stimulus. And here comes the breaking news. Legislators this morning say, yeah, get ready for fifth stimulus, and we're going to do it in the next few weeks. Wow. What's going on? Well, they're currently, of course, working on fourth stimulus. Now, one of the number one guys in the entire equation says, you know what? We got to do fifth stimulus. Because fifth stimulus, we're going to use it for Americans, and we're going to use it for the midterm elections of 2022. The notion is that it's so beneficial to help raise people's benefits and fix their Medicare and fix their medicine and fix their benefits checks, that every American, whether you're in a red state or blue state, you're going to love it. And the concept they're floating today in the breaking news is that they're going to do it by recon, because they're going to set it up in front of the Republicans who are going to say no, and they're going to say, no? Okay, vote no against it. We're going to pass it by recon, and then we're going to tell Americans at the midterm election, you didn't want to give them a Social Security raise, and we did. And this is brilliant. House Budget Chairman John Yarmuth, who is retiring soon, has now announced today that he believes that the fifth stimulus package should start right away after this one and get it ready as a way to win Americans over and also win the midterm elections. He has spoken to Nancy Pelosi about using the recon for next year as both good policy and political strategy. Remember, this would be your fifth stimulus recon, because we've been covering everyone on this channel since the Trump administration. It would be the third recon under Biden, however. And the quote is the following: force Republicans to vote against the recon, the fifth stimulus recon, like Medicare expansion or child care or senior help, depending on what we decide to put in the package. I don't see where the downside is of that in election year, because we're trying to do things that are really popular. He says, just set it up for the Republicans to vote against it, and it's just going to eat it up alive. I love it. And then there was the Democratic legislator who says, I'm too busy. I'm doing a lot of stuff now. Senator Brian Schatz, one thing at a time. John Tester, I haven't even thought about that yet. Ron Wyden, my hands are really full at the moment. Okay, yeah, just very busy. I got it. But doesn't say they're not going to do it. There you go. As we look forward to the weekend, this channel has now amassed 140 million views in the last year and a half. What has it said about ourselves? What has it said about our community? And what does it say about people going forward? Throughout this week on every video, I'll be detailing a little bit different messages of what we've learned over the last year and a half and what it shows us as a community and a family going forward and what it teaches us across the board. One of the things that I've seen important across the board has been the issue of using information to get you from point A to point B. And that point B doesn't have to be a home run. It just has to be the next step on something better than before. You see how when we're looking at each of these provisions, one thing gets you to a better state than the thing before. A lot of people during lifetime think that everything has to be a home run, that everything has to bring you from poverty to massive wealth. Things aren't always like that. Just getting into a better state where your bills are paid and that you're not behind on your bills is an accomplishment. Then getting to a place where you have some more savings is an accomplishment. A lot of people lost their savings accounts during the pandemic. Now people are trying to get caught up on the bills. And once you're caught up on a bill, it's a wonderful feeling. I had one viewer say, send me a beautiful message on social media, a private message overnight. I got it this morning, say, I was behind on my rent. And I said, you know what? I learned this from LA. Let me ask you about this. I didn't expect much, the viewer said. Now they'll say, they will not only get me caught up on my rent, which is, I think the viewer said it was 6 months, but will give me 3 months of rent going forward. It's huge. because that is how a lot of these packages focus on getting you caught up, and then a little bit going forward as well. That is where the comfort zone is. A lot of times in life, things are comfort zones, getting you caught up and then giving you a buffer so you know you have some extra savings in the bank account. That is how this channel has always operated. And in the very early videos, when I was doing EIDL loans, people were getting approved for EIDL loans of $130,000. And I said, do you really need that much money? Do you really need $130,000? Because after $25,000, it's collateralized. A lot of people were unable to assess what they needed. And I couldn't do it for them because I didn't know their situation. But now looking back in retrospect, I realized that maybe I should have tried to sort of get a better sense of what people needed for that buffer zone. Why? Because I had a lot of people who said, I got $130,000 approved. I only took $25,000. I thought the pandemic's going to be over in 3 months. It wasn't over in 3 months. I needed more money. I reached back to SBA. I couldn't get the rest of the money then. That's an example of how you really have to sort of assess things in life. You have to figure out, do I need this and do I need a little bit more? I'm going to use this as an example. One person's in the live chat right now, Sandy. She had a problem with her television set overnight and a problem with the television set now needs to be replaced. But she's thought this through correctly, and certainly her children as well. She needs also a better stand for the television set, which is great. Don't just focus on the stand, also focus on the television. Don't just focus on the television set, also focus on the stand. I would even also focus on maybe those plastic ties to make sure the television set is sort of anchored to the wall. You always have to do an extra little buffer of things. And whether it was that viewer who said, you know, I took $25,000 and I should have taken more from SBA. I regret not doing that. It's important to always be one step ahead. As we go into the winter months, there's a new report out minutes ago. I wasn't able to read the whole report. There's a new report out that says Biden polls are falling because people are very unsure about Delta. They're very, very unsure about Delta. What's my message on Delta? I'm going and getting the booster. I'm going in the booster as soon as I can get the booster, because you always have to stay ahead of the ball game. Don't ever be behind. Always be one step ahead, whether it's financially ahead with a little bit more money saved in the bank, applying early to get a program across the board. I always want you to be a step ahead. Understand you are a step ahead. With 90% of Americans not even knowing this recon exists, the remaining 10% can't even tell you what's in the recon. With a recon that'll pay viewers on this channel about $15,000 as a start, you're ahead of the ballgame. As Purple Hawks, you're ready to pound, so you're ready to get those big sums of money under this recon. If you haven't become a member, consider becoming a member. The newsletters, the membership link is under the video. The membership newsletter comes out Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Viewers of this channel have gotten on average $40,000 of third stimulus still being paid out from this channel. $40,000. Can you imagine? If you haven't gotten more than a $1,400 stimulus check from third stimulus, you need to start watching these videos. I did not have enough time to cover third stimulus today. Watch some of the throwback videos throughout the day because of the big news cycle. There is so much happening with fourth stimulus. But in that newsletter, I feature all the big money under first, second, and third stimulus for you to get, and the average viewer getting $40,000. It also features the nonprofits. I told viewers in September, get those holiday gifts, and some of you did get those holiday gifts in September because they're now gone. But they have holiday meals. You need holiday meals? Reach out to Salvation Army as well. The nonprofits are featured in that newsletter that comes out 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time from the YouTube alert system and the LALATE alert system, totally free. And with that, I'm so excited for you to join me. Join me next on Mornings Crypto at 10 a.m. I'm back on live with Mornings Crypto. Then at 11 a.m. is Noontime LALATE. The 1 o'clock afternoons LALATE show, and then the 3 o'clock afternoons LALATE show. Evenings LALATE we expect to be totally different than this afternoon show today as it was yesterday. By afternoons, community college was out. By evenings, community college was back in. By evenings, I was confusing people with Diapergate. I promise not to confuse you with any more diaper stimulus. And with that, subscribe. 400,000 subscribers, a YouTube record. I want you part of this incredible family, and it's our anniversary. It's our anniversary as a family this weekend. Like this video, 2,000-3,000 likes, and consider becoming a member. Purple Hawk, Purple Power, Casino VIP. Stay informed, stay focused, have a beautiful day, and join me in just 5 minutes from now as Mornings Crypto starts live on air.